Welcome to the Beau Show from our nation's capital. Actor Matthew McConaughey is known for his roles in A Time to Kill, How to Lose a Guy in 10 Days, The Wolf of Wall Street, and the great TV crime series True Detective. I think he's a great actor, and he's also quite likable. He has a certain southern genteelness to him with that Texas drawl. He's a guy that will deliver turkeys to homes in the Austin area on Thanksgiving. He has a book out, too, called Green Lights, which talks about the moments in life when we are given chances that we need to pay attention to and learn. He's been on a number of podcasts where he speaks openly and reflectively about his life and what goals he has. In fact, you may remember this speech when he won an Oscar.
To you, Dad, you taught me what it means to be a man. To my mother, who's here tonight, who taught me and my two older brothers, demanded that we respect ourselves. And what we in turn learned was then we were better able to respect others. Thank you for that, Mama. To any of us, whatever those things are, whatever it is we look up to, whatever it is we look forward to, and whoever it is we're chasing, to that I say amen. To that I say, all right, all right, all right. And to that I say, just keep living, huh? Thank you.
You can tell he's a deep thinker, a real intellectual. He also has toyed with the idea of running for governor in Texas. And Texas is a very interesting state. It used to be thought of as deep red, especially the presence of the Bush family there. But now, Texas has become more purple as Hollywood and West Coast types move to Texas for its attractive taxes and business-friendly policies. Plus, Austin itself became a mecca for movies and music with the South by Southwest Festival. What happens in cases like this is that the liberals from blue states migrate to the red state to take advantage of their friendly policies. But then they muddy up the elections by voting Democrat, thus bringing their liberal voting habits to a red state. That's how you saw the rise of Beau O'Rourke and his challenge of Senator Ted Cruz and Texas Governor Greg Abbott. Needless to say, he's always lost, but he recently popped back on the scene after the Uvalde shootings. With Matthew McConaughey being from Uvalde, he felt a personal connection to the city and the tragedy that happened there. And recently he took a trip to the White House to speak out. Let's listen to what he had to say.
To make the loss of these lives matter. My wife and I, Camilla, we spent most of last week on the ground with the families in Uvalde, Texas. We shared stories, tears, and memories. The common thread, independent of the anger and the confusion and the sadness, it was the same. How can these families continue to honor these deaths by keeping the dreams of these children and teachers alive? Again, how can the loss of these lives matter? So while we honor and acknowledge the victims, we need to recognize that this time, it seems that something is different. There is a sense that perhaps there's a viable path forward. Responsible parties in this debate seem to at least be committed to sitting down and having a real conversation about a new and improved path forward. A path that can bring us closer together and make us safer as a country. A path that can actually get something done this time. Camilla and I came here to share my stories from my hometown of Uvalde. I came here to take meetings with elected officials on both sides of the aisle. We came here to speak to them, to speak with them, and to urge them to speak with each other. To remind and inspire them that the American people will continue to drive forward the mission of keeping our children safe, because it's more than our right to do so. It's our responsibility to do so. I'm here today in the hopes of applying what energy, reason, and passion that I have into trying to turn this moment into a reality. Because as I said, this moment is different. We are in a window of opportunity right now that we have not been in before. A window where it seems like real change can happen.
Now, McConaughey is putting on his signature style here. And like I said, his likability shines through. He seems like a good guy with a good heart. But he also kind of lilted a bit when he said the words right to do so, which could be a veiled shot at people who talk about our rights, especially the Second Amendment right. He also says that this is a different moment because real change can actually happen now. He continues.
Uvalde, Texas is where I was born. I swear my mom taught kindergarten less than a mile from Robb Elementary. Uvalde is where I learned to master a Daisy BB gun. That took 2 years before I graduated to a .410 shotgun. Uvalde is where I was taught to revere the power and the capability of the tool that we call a gun. Uvalde is where I learned responsible gun ownership. Now, Uvalde called me on May 24th when I learned the news of this devastating tragedy. I had been out of cellular range, working in the studio all day when I emerged, and messages about a mass shooting in the town I was born in began flooding my inbox. In a bit of shock, I drove home. I hugged my children a bit tighter and longer than the night before. And then the reality of what had happened that day in the town I was born in set in. So the next morning, Camilla, myself, the kids, we loaded up the truck and we drove to Uvalde. And when we arrived a few hours later, I got to tell you, even from the inside of our vehicle, you could feel the shock in the town. You could feel the pain, the denial, the disillusion, anger, blame, sadness, loss of lives, and dreams halted.
I got to be honest, this section seems quite performative. And again, I don't want to dismiss what he's saying because I'll get into that. But the delivery itself has a certain performance art to it. It's almost like when he played lawyer Jake Brigance in A Time to Kill, which was a signature role for him. Nothing that McConaughey is saying is untrue or out of line, but the tone has that drama to it. He then tells the story of one of the shooting victims where he brings in even more drama.
And that is there that we met two of the grieving parents, Ryan and Jessica Ramirez. Their 10-year-old daughter, Alethea. She was one of the 19 children that were killed the day before. Now, Alethea, her dream was to go to art school in Paris and one day share her art with the world. Ryan and Jessica were eager to share Alethea's art with us and said if we could share it, that somehow, maybe that would make Alethea smile in heaven. They told us that showing someone else Alethea's art would in some way keep her alive. Now, this particular drawing is a self-portrait, all right, of Alethea drawing with her friend in heaven looking down on her, drawing the very same picture. Her mother said of this drawing, she said, you know, we never really talked to her about heaven before, but somehow she knew. Alethea was 10 years old. Her father, Ryan, this man was steady. He was uncommonly together and calm. When a frazzled friend of his came up and said, how are you so calm? I'd be going crazy. Ryan told him, he said, no, you wouldn't. No, you wouldn't. You'd be strong for your wife and kids because if they see you go crazy, that will not help them. Just a week prior, Ryan got a full-time line job, stringing power lines from pole to pole. And every day since landing that well-paying full-time job, he reminded his daughter Alethea, he said, girl, Daddy gonna spoil you now.
It's at this point where you get lost in the performance. And while McConaughey is a great actor and a great storyteller, I'm wondering if the drama has been poured on with too much affectation. He then describes another of the victims.
Maite wore green high-top Converse with a heart she had hand-drawn on the right toe because they represented her love of nature. Camilla's got these shoes. Can you show these shoes, please? Wore these every day. Green Converse with a heart on the right toe. These are the same green Converse on her feet that turned out to be the only clear evidence that could identify her after the shooting. How about that shit?
And I want you to look at even how the camera angles change. I don't know if I've ever seen camera angles change at a White House press room briefing. This is almost cinematic in a way. Then he goes into the gruesomeness of preparing the bodies at the funerals.
These bodies were very different. They needed much more than makeup to be presentable. They needed extensive restoration. Why? Due to the exceptionally large exit wounds of an AR-15 rifle. Most of the body so mutilated that only DNA test or green Converse could identify them.
He goes on to say that the victims' families want the dreams of their children to continue, that the loss of those lives will actually matter. He also talked to people that were not just the families there about what could be done.
Look, we heard from so many people, right? Families of the deceased, mothers, fathers, sisters, brothers, Texas Rangers, hunters, Border Patrol, and responsible gun owners who won't give up their Second Amendment right to bear arms. And you know what they all said? We want secure and safe schools, and we want gun laws that won't make it so easy for the bad guys to get these damn guns. So, we know it's on the table. We need to invest in mental health care. We need safer schools. We need to restrain sensationalized media coverage. We need to restore our family values. We need to restore our American values. And we need responsible gun ownership. Responsible gun ownership. We need background checks. We need to raise the minimum age to purchase an AR-15 rifle to 21. We need a waiting period for those rifles. We need red flag laws and consequences for those who abuse them. These are reasonable, practical, tactical regulations to our nation, states, communities, schools, and homes. Responsible gun owners are fed up with the Second Amendment being abused and hijacked by some deranged individuals. These regulations are not a step back. They're a step forward for a civil society and the Second Amendment.
Now, this is really the meat and potatoes of his speech. He's saying that he believes that common sense gun laws not just protect people, but also protect Second Amendment stalwarts. I do agree that American and family values need to be restored, although I feel as though he kind of glossed over those items, even the mental health part of it. The one law he specifically talks about is raising the age of buying an assault rifle from 18 to 21. Florida did this exact thing after the Parkland shooting. Texas has not, which enabled Salvador Ramos to purchase the rifles. But he also talks about responsible gun ownership. And I've got to tackle that because in his intro, he talked about how he revered guns and how he was taught responsible gun ownership. Well, that usually comes from the family unit, a father, a grandfather. It's how I learned to shoot as well. Most gun owners, by and large, are responsible people. They respect the gun. They went through safety classes or got permits and the like. And he believes that this is a unifying event that does not divide us. Here he is again.
Look, is this cure-all? Hell no. But people are hurting. Families are, parents are. And look, as divided as our country is, this gun responsibility issue is one that we agree on more than we don't. It really is.
He touches on the partisan divide that we have right now, and that's certainly palpable. Both sides bicker back and forth and blame each other, but they also have sometimes very different ways of offering solutions. Democrats usually opt for more government control, where the state knows what's best for you. It will take care of you. It will tax you more so that it can spend more of your money, more federal power. And Republicans usually defer to states and individual rights. They do not believe in a massive overreach of government. They believe that rights must be protected from or with respect to the federal government. Remember that the Second Amendment had to do with a well-regulated militia, so the right to bear arms must not be infringed. Think about why this even happened. Because the Revolutionary Army had to take up arms against King George and the Brits. I'll come back to this later, but just remember why we have a Second Amendment.